Hello and welcome to my class. I am Professor Adesh Kumar Srivastav, Associate Professor, School of Management, BBD University. Today, I'll be discussing database architecture. This is a university database, for example, you can say, where we have the table like student, course, section, grade report, etc. We will talk about schema architecture. Three of four important characteristics of the database approach are self-describing of database, that is a schema, insulation between program and data, support of multiple views of the data. Three schema architecture. It was proposed to help achieve and visualize these characteristics. Three schema architecture, it defines a schema at three levels. We are talking about three-tier architecture, in which first is internal schema. It is at the internal level to describe physical storage structure and access paths. For example, indices. Conceptual schema at the conceptual level to describe the structure and constraint for the whole database for a community of users. External schemas at the external level to describe the various user views. This is three-tier schema architecture, a figure for your understanding. You are seeing here it is external level, that is external view for different users. First is this is stored database, which is comes under internal schema. So that is internal schema. After that, it comes conceptual schema. Conceptual schema is at conceptual level. This is at the middle level, and thereafter there is external schema. Or schema, you can say external view or external level. So these are three level and three schema architecture. Centralized DBMS architecture, a centralized DBMS in which all the DBMS functionality, application program, execution and user interface processing were carried out on a single machine. This is physical centralized architecture for your understanding. These are terminals, the display monitor in a network, and this is the middle level layer, the layer of software, maybe DBMS, compilers, terminal display control, application program and text editor. This is software layer, you can say middle layer. Thereafter operating system, and operating system, the system bus, controller, these are controllers, and memory, disk, CPU. So this is all hardware and firmware. It's a physical centralized architecture. Example of physical centralized architecture. Now we come to basic client server architecture. Actually, when we talk about this three-tier architecture, we always talk about basic client server architecture. The client server architecture was developed to deal with computer environment in which a large number of PCs, workstation, file server, etc. A client in this framework is typically a user machine that provides user interface capabilities and local processing. A server is a system containing both hardware and software that can provide services to the client machines. Now we'll talk about logical two-tier client server architecture. So this is a figure about logical two-tier client server architecture, where we have a layer of these are the client in a network, and this is server. This is print server, this is file server, and this one is DBMS server. So there are two layers only. One is of server and another is of client. So this is a logical two-tier client server architecture in a network. In two-tier architecture, why it is called two-tier? This is called two-tier architecture because the software components are distributed over two systems, client and server. The emergence of the web changed the role of client and server, leading to the three-tier architecture. Actually, first two-tier architecture was existing, but the emergence of the web and the advancement technologies have changed the roles of client and server, which led to the invention of three-tier architecture. So what is three-tier? discussed earlier, the intermediate layer or middle layer is sometimes called the application server or web server. In 3-tier architecture, it can enhance security. Database server only accessible via middle tier. Clients cannot directly access to the database server. So a middle layer works as a bridge between external layer and internal layer. That's why it provides a security, and it can enhance security. This is a 3-tier client server architecture model, in which the first one is database server, database management system, right? Application server or web server, where we have application programs or web pages, and then there's client GUI interface or web interface. So these are the 3 layers, right? This is a 3-layer architecture and the example of 3-tier architecture. The presentation layer displays information to the user. The business logic layer handles intermediate rules and constraints before data is passed up to the user or down to the DBMS. If the bottom layer is split into 2 layers, a web server and a database server, then it is a 4-tier architecture. It is possible up to n tier. Now we talk about these 3 levels of abstraction: physical or internal level. The lowest level of abstraction describes how data are actually stored. It describes complex low-level data structures in detail. So what we have in the physical or internal level, we have the complex low-level data structures in detail, that is given there at that particular level. Then we come to the middle level or logical or conceptual level. It describes what data are stored in the database and what relationship exists among those data. So the middle layer or the conceptual layer or the logical layer, whatever you call, it talks about the database stored and their relationships. It describes the entire database in terms of relativity, simpler structures. So this is described in logical or conceptual level. Now we talk about view or external level, the highest level of abstraction, which describes only a part of the database. User's view of the database. This level describes that part of the database that is relevant to each user. So this is the highest level of abstraction. It describes only a part of a database, and it describes only that part of database which is relevant to the user's view or a user's perspective. So this is the highest level of abstraction. So these are the 3 levels of abstraction which are present in 3-tier architecture. So logical or conceptual level, it describes what data are stored in the database and what relationship exists among those data. We discussed earlier. Now we'll see it in detail. It describes the entire database in terms of relatively simple structures. The implementation of these simple structures at this level may involve complex physical level structures. Users of the logical level need not be aware of this complexity. Database administrators who decide what information to keep in database use the logical level of abstraction. So the database administrator use the logical level of abstraction. Again, this is a view, we have seen it. So this is view of external, this is logical view, and this is physical level view. And these are levels of abstraction as we have seen earlier also. View 1, view 2, view 3. These may be 3 different users which may be viewing the different way, in a different way. So many views: single, conceptual, logical schema, and physical schema. Views describe how users see the data. So as I told you, they may be seeing the data in a different perspective, different way. Conceptual schema defines logical structure. This middle level, this conceptual schema actually defines the logical structure, how the data is logically related to each other, what are the relationship amongst the data. Now the physical schema describes the file and indexes used. The physical schema describes files and indices used in the database, and we all know what is a schema. A schema is nothing but the set of rules. So schemas are defined using DDL, that is data definition language. Data is modified or queried using data manipulation language. So ANSI Spark 3-tier architecture, the proposal for standard terminology and general architecture group for DBS produced in 1971 by DBTG Database Task Group. This is just a historical background of this particular architecture. Appointed by Conference on DBS and Languages, that is CODASIL, DBTG recognized the need for a two-tier architecture with the system view schema or users view sub-schema. ANSI, that is American National Standard Institute, and SPARC, that is Standard Planning and Requirement Committee, produced similar terminology and architecture in 1975. This was ANSI X3 SPARC in 1975. So ANSI SPARC recognized the need for a three-tier architecture, and from there the three-tier architecture evolved. So we have seen this. This is the figure what we were seeing since a long time in this lecture. So external level is the user's view level, and the middle level is conceptual level or logical level, and the internal level is physical level, where we talk about physical schema. In the middle level we talk about conceptual schema, right? So in other terms we can also say that in middle level layer there is physical data independence, and at the external level there is logical data independence. We'll talk about data independence in the next lecture. Now this is the figure levels of DBMS architecture diagram in a graphic. External level layout for end users. So this view 1, this user is viewing something different. This is view 2, this user is seeing something different. And this is view 3, this user is seeing something different. So all are seeing the different views from the same database. And the conceptual level, that is middle level, where the conceptual schema is developed. So this is the middle level. And after that the physical layer, where physical schema is there, and this is database, that is the internal level. So this was the detail about levels of DBMS architecture and schema and three-tier architecture. Right now we have understood all this three-tier architecture up till now, but now we will see the same thing with the help of graphics. Now let us see the three-tier architecture with the help of graphics.
DBMS architecture refers to the design of database and its related elements. It describes the connectivity of database, the application program used to access the database, and the user who manipulates the data. Based on the design, it can be divided into 4 types: 1-tier, 2-tier, 3-tier, and n-tier architecture. In case of 1-tier architecture, the DBMS is stored on user's system and can be directly used using an interface. It is normally used by database designers and programmers. So, let us imagine that you store and manipulate your data on your desktop or laptop using MySQL. You are using 1-tier architecture. In 2-tier architecture, the application program runs on the client side. The database is stored on the server. An interface called ODBC connects the application program and the database on the server. ODBC stands for Object Database Connectivity. It is a translation layer used to access the database and the user interface application. Some common examples of 2-tier architecture are the database servers, like Oracle, Sybase, and Microsoft SQL Server. Users interact with the data using client applications or GUI, such as Visual Basic, Visual C++, or Access. In 3-tier architecture, the application program runs on the client side, and database is stored on the server. However, unlike 2-tier, an intermediate layer, called application layer, is stored on a separate server. This layer stores the programs that access the database from database server. The application tier acts as a mediator that presents the data to the user in a required form. What most of us don't know is that even though the 3 layers work together to create a 3-tier architecture, each of the layer can be operated and managed individually. Another type of architecture is n-tier. In case of n-tier or multi-tier architecture, the database, application and presentation layers are stored on 3 or more different tiers. It typically contains 3 tiers: data tier, middle tier and presentation tier. This kind of architecture is mostly used in web applications, like e-commerce. In most cases, n-tier architecture begins as a 3-tier model. An increase in the amount of data might lead to situations where organizations might store interrelated databases on more than one server. This is known as distributed database and is managed by Distributed Database Management System. However, as a learner of DBMS, we will use single or one-tier architecture and store and manipulate our data on the same system.
So we have seen with the help of graphics that how this 3-tier architecture works. So thank you all for watching and listening patiently my lecture of DBMS architecture. Thank you all for your patience, and you are always invited for all the queries. If you have any doubt, you can contact to me online and offline always. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to all of you in my class. I am Professor Adesh Srivastav. Today I'll be discussing DDL, the Data Definition Language. The full form of DDL is Data Definition Language. Data Definition Language helps you to define the database structure or schema. DDL commands help you to create the structure of the database and other database objects. Its commands are auto-committed, so the changes are saved in the database permanently. DDL also defines additional properties of the data defined in the database as the domain of the attributes. The data definition language also provides the facility to specify some constraint that would maintain the data consistency. What are benefits of DDL? It allows you to store shared data, data independence, improved integrity, and it allows multiple users. Apart from this, improved security, efficient data access. So these are the benefits of DDL. By this we can understand that how much beneficial it is. So number one is stored shared data, means we can share all the data that is stored. That's true. Data independence, improved integrity, means it improves the integrity because of data independence and allows multiple users. So all the users, many users in fact can be accessed together. So improved security, efficient data access. These are the benefits of DDL. One can notice that DDL only defines the columns, that is attributes of the table. Like other programming language, DDL also accept the command and produce output that is stored in the data dictionary, which is metadata. Now here is a term metadata. Let me explain it here only. What is metadata? Metadata is nothing but data about data, right? That is data that is contained in the data dictionary. That is what it is written in the last line, that output that is stored in the data dictionary. So data dictionary is nothing but the metadata in which the data about the data is stored, means where the data is stored, its physical location and all, everything is written in that data dictionary. So that is called data about data. In technical language we call it metadata. I hope this is clear to you all. After that, now we come to the types of DDL commands. There are some DDL commands, so few of them we will be discussing it here. Number one is create. Create statement is used to define the database structure schema. The syntax is create table, then table name, in comma, in parentheses, in braces, column name, data types, like that. For example, create database university, create table student, create view for students. So these are the various uses of create command. I hope this must be clear to you. Now we switch to the next command. Rather, we'll take some more example of create table command. So create table command, you can, if you want to create a table, this is the complete structure of that command. Create table, then table name, and within small quotes, we write all the column name with their data type and specify null or not null. I hope you must be knowing about this specification, that is null or not null. I'll discuss it here just now. So here the parameter table name denotes the name of the table that you are going to create. It may be any name that you wish to give, number one. Then after, the parameter column 1 and column 2 denotes the columns to be added to the table. These columns in fact are the fields, right? A column should be specified as either null or not null. If you don't specify, SQL Server will take null as the default. Null means there will be no value. So null is what? Null is no value. It does not mean it is 0, because 0 is also a value. So here it will contain no value. So you have to specify not null as you want to give the values here. So the complete example will be like this: create table student, then in braces student ID and the type int is the integer type, thereafter comma, and then student name, and then again the variable type, that is varchar, means it will be character variable, and the length of that will be 10, and thereafter the braces closed. So this is the complete example of create table command. I hope you must have understood. Then we come to the drop command. Drop commands are remove table and databases from RDBMS. The syntax is drop table. It's very simple. For example, drop object type, object name, or drop database university, or drop table student. So these are various uses of drop command. Then we move to another command, that is alter. Alter command allows you to alter the structure of the database. The syntax is to add a new column in the table. Suppose you have made a column, you have made a table and you want to add a new column in the table. So for that, alter table, table name, add column name, and then column definition. So to modify an existing column in the table, what we will do? We will give command like this: alter table modify, and in the braces column definition, and braces close and semicolon. So for example, alter table student, add subject varchar. So what we will be doing? We will be adding another column, that is subject, in the table student, and its data type we have mentioned, that is varchar, means it will be character type. So I hope these examples must have made the alter command clear to you. So we come to the next command, that is truncate. This command uses to delete all the rows from the table and free space containing the table. So truncate is the command to delete all the rows from the table and free the space containing the table. Means it will clear the rows and free the space from containing the table, right? The syntax will be truncate table and then table name. For example, truncate table students. So you had created a table student, but by this you are deleting the rows and freeing the space. But there is a point. Earlier you have learned about alter command. Before that you have learned about drop command. There is a difference between drop and truncate. See, there is a fine line between this. Drop command removes table and databases from RDBMS. Means if you give the drop command, it will permanently delete all that thing what you have given. But In case of truncate command, what will do? It will delete the rows only and free the space, but it will not delete the entire table. Table structure will remain. After that, we have rename command. Rename command is used to rename the content in the database. Columns can also be given a new name with the use of alter table. The syntax is alter table name, rename column, old name to new name. So this is the command: alter table name, and then rename column, old name to new name. So old name will be the name what the previously existing name. Now what you want to give the name, so that will be the new name. So by this, with the use of alter table command and rename command will be used. I hope this is clear to you all. We switch to now DML, that is data manipulation language. DML commands, it allows you to manage data stored in the database, although DML commands are not auto-committed. So DML commands are what? It is data manipulation language. We will use these commands to manage the stored data in the database. The DDL command were the commands which we were using to define the data, define the structure of the table, define the structure of the database. But now we have created the structure, we have created the table, we have created the database. Now what we'll do, we are going to modify it, we are going to retrieve it, we are going to fetch it. So they are not permanent. DML commands are not permanent. So it is possible to roll back the operation. The full form of DML is data manipulation language. Now let us proceed to the commands of data manipulation language. Benefits of DML. What are the benefits of data manipulation language? The DML statements allow you to modify the data stored in a database. Users can specify what data is needed. The DML offers many different flavors and capabilities between database vendors. It offers an efficient human interaction with the system. So these are the benefits of data manipulation language commands. Command for data manipulation language are: number one is insert command. This is a statement that is a SQL query. In fact, we use these commands with the help of SQL query, right? So the syntax will be insert into table name, and then in small quotes we use column 1, column 2, column 3 and up to column n. Then quotes close, then values, and within parenthesis value 1, value 2, value 3 and up to value n are insert into table name values, and then in parenthesis value 1, value 2 up to value n. So what will be the example? Insert into students. Suppose you are going to insert something into a student. So what we'll have, we are actually adding a new record, right? So in the student table, so the command will be insert into student, then roll number, first name and last name. So these are the three things that we want to insert. So that we have mentioned first. Thereafter values, and we will now fill all the values of the given three columns, and all the values will be in single comma, in single quotes separated by comma, and the parenthesis close, and then after semicolon. With the semicolon, that is end of the command or termination of the command, which gives us a sign that command is complete. So this is insert command. Thereafter, the elaborated example of insert command. First we begin insert into, then table name, column 1, column 2, column 3 as it is, values, value 1, value 2, value 3, and then end. So this is the complete insert command. The above syntax shows the insert into command. The table name and values are mandatory fields, whereas column names are not mandatory. If the insert statement have values for all the columns of the table, the keyword values is mandatory if the values are given separately as shown above. Now we come to update command. This command is used to update or modify the value of a column in the table. The syntax is update table name, set, and then bracket. Column name 1 is equal to value 1 dash dash, column name n is equal to value n, where, and then condition. This will be in a separate bracket. For example, update student, set first name is equal to John, last name Vic, where student ID is 3. Means what? We are going to update that particular record where student ID is 3. So this where student ID 3 is the condition, means it is going to update the command where the student ID is 3. It will update that record only. So this is all about update command. Thereafter we come to delete command. This command is used to remove one or more rows from a table. Delete from table name where condition in brackets and semicolon. Example will be delete from a student where first name is equal to John. So it will delete all the data where the first name it will get as a John. So all the data where first name is John, it will delete all that rows. Then types of DML. There are two types of DML, procedural DML and declarative DML. These are two types where procedural DML describes what data is to be retrieved and also how to get that data. Declarative DML only describe what data is to be retrieved. It does not describe how to get that data. Declarative DMLs are easier as the user has only to specify what data is required. What are the main differences of DDL and DML? The first is data definition language helps you to define the database structure or schema, where data manipulation language or DML command allows you to manage the data stored in the database. Number two, DDL command is used to create the database schema, where the DML command is used to populate and manipulate the database. In DDL, the commands are create, alter, drop, truncate, and comment and rename, etc. Whereas in DML, these are insert, update, delete, merge, call, etc. In DDL, it defines the column of the table. In DML, it adds or updates the rows of the table. In DDL, SQL commands can not be rolled back, whereas in DML, SQL commands can be rolled back. So these are the main differences of DDL and DML. So I hope this must be clear to you what are the main differences of DDL and DML. So we come to the conclusion that for forming a database language, both DDL and DML is necessary, as they both will be required to form and access the database. I hope this must be pretty clear to all of you, because with the DDL, what we'll be doing, we'll be defining our data, that is database. We'll be defining our database, and with DML, what we'll be doing, we'll be retrieving the data, we'll be fetching the data, we'll be manipulating the data actually. So both are necessary. So I hope these DDL and DML commands must be clear to you all, and by this we come to the conclusion that DDL and DML both are necessary, as they are actually the mutual required, and both of these are simultaneously required to complete the desired task. So I hope the session must be easy and understandable to you all. In case of any problem, you are free to ask offline and online always. Thank you all for watching and listening patiently. Thanks a lot.